This is an incoming transmission from the Jersey Shore.
This is Financial Insanity with Scott McLean, powered by McLean Advisory Group. Today you'll hear some of the most important financial information and wealth-building techniques available anywhere.
Let's get this party started, huh?
Do you have a question for Scott and the team?
Am I on the air?
609-488-4646. That's 609-488-4646.
We'll get that information to them by radio.
Now, Financial Insanity with Scott McLean.
You hear Scott's voice on the radio each week. You've probably even seen him around town. Maybe you've seen his face on some advertising. Maybe you know somebody he's worked with. But how much do you know about Scott the person and how Scott came to be who he is now and the business owner that he is? This is going to be a great show for you to get to know Scott. And remember, if you hear something today, if you have questions, you can always reach Scott and his team, 609-488-4646. And Scott, I just want to really get into it here with you and talk about your background a little bit. How did you get involved with financial services, Scott?
I don't know.
That is fair.
I don't know. I just fell in love with just numbers. I think because of Dad, when I used to play ball, he'd take me out to the ball game and said, "Son, what's 10% of $1,000?" And I'd say, "Dad, I'm fixing to play ball." I was like 8 years old. And then he said, "Well, Scott, you got to answer the question. You can't get out of the car." "Dad, I'm about to play ball. You got to let me go." And we'd have a little tussle. He always won. And I started to understand I didn't like him because he was running numbers all the time and asking questions. And, you know, the older I get, the smarter he is. And I can see that when I think about numbers, it's so valuable. And then, of course, it led into not only numbers, but then finances. Then on top of finances, money and doing budget. I remember Mom and Dad were arguing about finances and, "Ken, why don't you do the checkbook?" Or, "Joan, why don't you do the checkbook?" And I remember hearing that as a little guy, and they weren't arguing, just going back and forth and remembering budgets, numbers. 1966, I was a little bit older. I was, I guess I was a whopping 8 years old, and we just moved to Florida, Jacksonville, Florida. Just hearing how Daddy, when he bought a car, I'd listen. I didn't know what I was doing. Or when he bought a boat, when he bought things, he was really good at numbers, and I didn't even think about it. So if you're going to go back that far, now going up to this age in my life, now I'm a little bit older, 60 plus years older, and I'm thinking, you know what? Numbers are really important, and finance is so critical when you put numbers to it, and I think that's what made me intrigued. And you know what, Alex? In school, I'll never forget Mr. Brew. I was going to Nyack College and heading into the mission field and looking to be a missionary. And my roommate, Danny, was now actually overseas in Poland, helping out in the Ukraine crisis. And I'll never forget, he always make fun of me because my daddy says, "Scott, you must take financial courses." I said, "Daddy, I'm studying Greek. I'm studying Hebrew. I'm getting involved in the ministry." He goes, "Look, what makes me upset," because he's a trustee on the board, "is pastors who handle money don't know much about money. And you need to know about money. So I want you to take financial courses." Now, let me help you, Alex. This is probably crazy like you. You know, I worked at Eddie's Sunoco right there in Nyack, New York. I pumped gas from a wonderful time at 2:00 in the afternoon till 8:00.
Oof.
I'd go home, I'd study. And then from 1 a.m. to 6 a.m., I'd unload trucks at UPS in Nanuet, New York. I was butt broke and I had no money, but Daddy helped pay some of the bills in college. And I, of course, paid a lot of it too. And I remember when Dad says, "If you don't take college course on finances, then I'm not going to help support you." Well, that was the caveat. So I guess maybe that's where it really hit home when Daddy said, "I'm not going to really help you out." And you know what, Mr. Brew? We were taking a class called statistics. Have you ever taken a class statistics, Alex?
Unfortunately, I was forced to, yes.
You know, I remember raising my hand, and Mr. Brew was a CPA in Similac Milk, and he was going to be overseas, and he was at ATS in the seminary, and he was teaching his way on college kids like me. I'm a young little rat. I guess I was 18 years old, and I raised my hand because he was teaching finance and statistics. I raised my hand and said, Mr. Brew, it looks like you can lie with numbers. He had a big smirk on his face. I'll never forget the smile he had. He said, son, that's what we need. Good businessmen and good businesswomen who understand how people can spin things to make it look good, but frankly, it doesn't. And that's what really turned me on. And I started to gravitate towards the financial world. I think that's where it really, I can't say where it really hit home, from whether it's playing ball to there. But then it really hit home on people. There's no classes that people take in school these days. Even still today, there's no class in elementary school, high school, college, unless you actually sign up for it, that teaches you about money and finance. And I think that's where the emphasis of our firm has been. Let's educate people. Before you invest, let's understand what the heck you're doing so you don't get caught in the whirlwind of statistical lies. And I think that's really hit me hard, Alex, in my career.
Well, and for people that want some answers to their questions, they can call Scott, 609-488-4646. And, you said it really started with your dad there. And did you find yourself, passing on some of those words of wisdom to your kids and, grandkids?
Of course I do. And I do the same thing to them Daddy did to me, like history repeats itself. I do. And every kid has a different lesson. So if it's my daughter with the horses, I'll relate it to her. If it's my grandson playing baseball and buying a new glove, or maybe buying a ball, or maybe buying ice cream, negotiating, talking, and, trying to get the best bang for your buck, no matter what child I'm speaking to. And I got a bunch of them. I think that's important. Finances will last the rest of your life.
Yeah, I remember my dad always told me that every dollar I make's already been spent. And I remember that was a little bit depressing, but pretty accurate as I started working. I was okay, I know what my dad was saying. Now, tell me more, Scott, here about your first job. You first started working, and do you have some experiences or some lessons that have kind of carried on with you?
Best of my knowledge, my first job was at a bowling alley in Jacksonville, Florida. It was just opening up. I was cleaning. I was sweeping the floors. That was my first job, and they needed, part-time help. And that was fun. The experience, I didn't like it. I guess I didn't like somebody had their thumb on my head and telling me when, and putting a number on me and saying, you're worth this. I thought I was worth more. The second biggest thing was, I think the biggest impact was Mr. Jones, a very close friend of mine. He's passed away. Mrs. Jones is still alive. She's about 96, I think, right around now. And Charlie, and they had the largest fence company in Jacksonville, Florida. I remember going out there, putting up fence. And what I learned about it, hard work. And I loved working. I loved being outside. Just tell me what to do. And that made me excited. And my biggest excitement, why did I work? I had to pay for the gas for the boat. Daddy said, if you want to go water skiing a lot, which was my drug of choice, water skiing. I had to water ski. Frankly, I do that more than anything in the world, and I competed all over the United States. But when I was younger, I had to pay for it myself, and that was a big lesson of making money. And so Mr. Jones gave me a job, and I'll never forget looking at the paycheck, and my paycheck was, well, at $1.85 an hour. That was a lot of money. But I noticed a line. I didn't know what that line was. Is Social Security, federal tax. I was I didn't understand those numbers. So of course I asked my dad, and he said, son, that's going to be with you the rest of your life. That's inherited. And I understand about taxes, which is why I built the tax practice now going many years forward. But that really hit me, even though the paycheck was so little, even though it was big back then. Why is somebody putting their hand in my pocket? I got to get their hand out of my pocket. That's what I did. Fence work. Amazing.
Well, and Scott, it's great to hear about, your history, learn a little bit more about you, how you got to be where you're at now. Tell me a little bit about now and what it's like to work with you, to be your client. And, do you do things like hold client events and, encourage these people to stay active? And what is it kind of like to interact with you once, come to work with you?
I just had a meeting today with a client, the second meeting. First time I just get to know people, get a relationship to see if there's a fit. Maybe there's a fit with myself, or maybe they don't fit with me. Maybe I fit with them and they don't fit with me, or vice versa. Number one, there's got to be a fit. Number two, I really want them to understand where they're at. I really want to understand, what does retirement look like near or in retirement? Perhaps people are now, maybe they're 45 and 50. They don't know to save money. They're spending all their money on their kids, which is normal. And then they have to play catch up. Money is so critically, and now it's really hard with this market we're going through right now. I think what's important on the education process and the process I work with our clients is, number one, to educate them. Number two, which is why we've been doing, Alex, so many different workshops, whether it's a tax workshop, a social security workshop. We do a estate planning, I call it wills and trust workshop. We do a workshop on investments. And then, of course, investments and taxes. And so many different areas that come into the area of finance, but it breaks down to how does it really fit the person I'm speaking with at that time. And I think by doing that, I really know how to really help them understand what they're going through. If it's a brand new person I met for the first time, or if it's a client's been with me for 15, 20, 30 years. And I've got clients that long with me because now it's going in, it's my 40th year on, going forward, 41st year going on forward. I think it's really important to understand, for me to understand the client and them to understand me. So if it's a good fit, great. It's a great relationship. I think it's important before we even do business together to know each other. And again, to help them understand or educate them. And that's important to me.
Scott, I've enjoyed getting to know you and talking with you, and very enjoyable experience for me. And you really teach me a lot as well. And if people had questions, how could they get a hold of you, Scott?
I'd love them to write down their questions, to write down their thoughts. Maybe they've been like myself, working their tail off for their life, and now they want to preserve their assets or put them in the right place. I'd love to hear from people at 609-488-4646. If you have questions, I probably have answers for sure. 609-488-4646. Write them down. I feel free to talk to you off the air.
We're going to talk a little bit about inflation. That is coming up. More financial insanity with Scott McLean on the way.
It's nice when you get everything on your list in one place, isn't it? Scott McLean from McLean Advisor Group agrees. That's why he offers comprehensive retirement planning all under one roof. You shouldn't have to go one place for tax planning, another for estate planning, and another for retirement income planning. That's why McLean Advisory Group was started. Scott wanted to build a company that could help families with all aspects of their retirement planning. McLean Advisory Group is more than just convenient. They're knowledgeable and experienced. And for answers for your questions, you can set up a meeting with Scott and his team to talk about your retirement. Call 609-488-4646. That's 609-488-4646. Use the same number to reach the team online. 609-488-4646.com. Investment advisory services are offered through Bellpoint Asset Management, LLC. Firm offers insurance services but does not provide tax or legal advice. We made it back. This is Financial Insanity with Scott McLean, presented by McLean Advisory Group.
No surprise, inflation emerging as a top concern for people preparing for retirement. CNBC saying 71% of retirement age investors worried inflation could have a negative impact on their savings. It's a fair and real concern. What do you think about it, Scott?
Reagan, 1980. Inflation is as violent as a mugger and frightening as an armed robber and as deadly as a hitman. I'll never forget that statement. Frankly, when I put it in my book as trap number 3 on the 3 blind mice. You know, in inflation, we've just came out of a period of time when you're coming out of a period of time with low inflation. Money is flowing like the streams in the Hudson River. And it's almost amazing that now people, when you think about inflation, at first they don't feel it. It comes on very silently. And then, like a time bomb, it blows up. And we've seen that time and time again. I remember buying gas at the gas station. Many of you listening right now, I'm your age, probably you're like maybe a little bit older. The odd even days. Remember that? I remember because my bad habit was water skiing, having to take the license plate off of a friend's car, stick it on their car just to go water skiing. I know that's probably wrong. I just had to make it happen. But inflation's like a thief in the night, and it shows up. And when it shows up, it could be totally, totally disastrous. I can't imagine people today on a fixed income, whether in retirement, and now they have to go buy some eggs. Instead of buying a dozen eggs, maybe they buy a half a dozen, or maybe they have to split meals. I feel it. I see it. I just feel for people. And man, if their investments are on the wrong spot, this could be a nightmare, especially if the stock market is dropping and then inflation's going up. You're getting a double whammy. I call it the Muhammad Ali left-right hook. And I think that's important. So, Alex, I'm not sure if you've ever studied Economics 101. I mean, heck, that class will put you to sleep faster than the strongest sleeping pills. But I think inflation really, however, causes the biggest distortion. And why is it? The printing of money. They kept printing, and everybody loves those checks, don't we? That free money. Well, free is now coming at a cost. Inflation. It's a deadly silent killer, the thief in the night.
Pandemic has had an effect on how people are preparing for retirement, how they think about it. And we had a poll here we looked at, personal capital poll conducted by Qualtrics, and it said 1/3 of the respondents there say the pandemic's convinced them that they'll need a larger nest egg for retirement. 36% saying the pandemic has lowered their anticipated standard of living. Are you seeing similar trends with people you're working with?
I am, especially for clients that we have. Luckily, we've been speaking about it. Doesn't mean we have the know-all, end-all answer. The question is we have to take maneuvers in the portfolio, perhaps shifting from the G, the growth investments, to the I, the income, living off the dividends and interest. Obviously, as the nest egg starts to dwindle, people are getting really, really nervous. And I did a workshop, Alex, just the last week. I think it was on a Thursday night, and I said, let's just flip the roles right now. You are the financial advisor. I'm your client. The stock market ate $100,000 of my money. In other words, the market went down. I lost $100,000. Do you want to call me? This is where I think in the financial industry, a lot of people are not calling their people. Maybe they're tucking their tail and hiding. And this is a time not to be really relaxed and tuck your head in the sand, because nothing else is exposed but your vitals. You got to be on the alert. And just today, meeting with a lovely client and his wife, beautiful people, and their advisor never called them in the past couple of years, maybe once a year. I'm not really educating. They said, we don't even know what we have. I think this is important. Now, when you throw inflation in the picture, mathematically, this could be totally disastrous. So again, really, really paying attention to what they have. And I think what's important, Alex, is this is not the time to set back when inflation is rampant. Heck, it's easier to print money than ever, which the government's doing, which they were, rather than issuing bonds, paying off debt. They just print money. I think what's happening, you're going to start seeing credit card debt escalate. You're going to see more violence, which unfortunately I don't want to talk about, but it could be getting worse. People just want to cover their family. Inflation is a very, very, very disastrous, as I say in the beginning, a thief in the night, and people should be concerned about it, pay attention to it, and watch their money. Don't just go out and blow it.
If you have concerns, you have questions about inflation, anything else, you can call Scott. That number, 609-488-4646, 609-488-4646. Now, people, if they're worried, they think they might need a bigger nest egg, whether it's the pandemic, inflation, whatever it is, it's got them thinking about it. What's the first step to really analyze and look at and see how am I doing?
Two areas. When you're looking at your portfolio, if you're out there right now, and give you some homework to look at, because regardless of what, inflation really causes distortions in your financial plan. And when you think about it, look at two areas. Number one, look at the bottom right-hand side of your portfolio. What's it at? Just today, I was looking at a portfolio of a client, and my goodness, he came in, and him and this lovely lady, and the account's down almost 50,000. I said, when the advisor called you, what did they say? Well, they haven't called me yet. I said, well, it's been now several months. Have they called you in the past half a year? No, they haven't. So number one, pay attention to what the number is on a quarterly basis. Don't be over panicking, but if they're not calling you, get somebody there. Number two, look at the amount of units you have. So if you've got dividends to reinvest, you're building up more shares of stock. This could be a great thing. Maybe for people who want more income, maybe they turn on the dividends and don't touch the principal. In other words, don't touch the basis, the shares of stock. Just turn on the dividends to maybe help the inflation not be as challenging. For example, if I'm getting, let's say, a 5% dividend from a lovely preferred, or maybe REIT, BDC, MLP, some type of investment, and I'm getting that dividend, rather than reinvest it, maybe take it out now. Maybe some of you out say need a little extra money. You're afraid to burn down your account because you've seen your account values drop in a stock market that's dropping, perhaps. Well, just turn on the dividends. And if you don't have a dividend portfolio, Alex, the two things to look for, as you just asked me, number one, look at the account values. And number two, are we getting more shares of stock? If you are, maybe turn off the dividend to reinvest and take out the dividends. But this is really, really another way to help kind of fight for inflation, or fight it off the best we can. And I think this is really, really important for those of us that are worried about your portfolio dropping.
And Scott, we can't predict the future. That's just how it is. In the pandemic, inflation, only thing we can predict is that things are going to be unpredictable. And it's a little uncomfortable because people want to know what's coming next. But really, Scott, it's just important to know that there's going to be things coming your way. Maybe it's in your personal life. Maybe it's global. Who knows? But there are going to be things that happen that maybe make things more difficult, or at least are challenges that you didn't foresee. And so it is important, though, to have people in your corner that know what they're doing, been through this before. And it's just the kind of thing that you don't want to assume anything. These are important decisions, and there's a lot to consider.
There's a lot going on right now. There's no doubt there's a lot to consider. You buy a bottle of wine, it's $100. Bottle of wine, and the cheese costs $5. For pretty soon you can't have the cheese. And then the wine goes up to $1.05, $105. Well, your money's being eroding with inflation. So again, like you say, we can see it. If anybody can't see it, they've got blinders on, and it needs to be really, really discussed.
And Scott, how can people get a hold of you? They have questions. I know you're somebody who can be a resource for folks.
They're free to give our studios a call anytime. Bonnie, Sally, Patty, George, they can make sure they get a hold of somebody here. We've got a great staff, but if you've got questions, I'm sure we have answers for you, or try to do our best. 609-488-4646. Real easy phone number. We have it. By the way, that's our website, 609-488-4646. If you put .com, you'll go right to our website. That could be helpful for people if they want to take a look at our firm. Maybe you're new in the area. Maybe you just moved down. The pandemic you brought up a little earlier in the show. People were moving out of North Jersey, out of Philadelphia, out of New York, and coming down to the beautiful, beautiful Jersey Shore right down here in our backyard, the Long Beach Island, and of course, a beautiful area. 609-488-46. I'd love to help you.
Workshops, educational opportunities. If I'm somebody, I hear you talking about holding these, how could I look at that calendar or get involved if I wanted to attend one of those?
Well, that's amazing. You said that, as our website is up there at our phone numbers I mentioned, 609-488-4646. But it goes right to our website. And we do hold several different workshops and they should be placed there. Or perhaps the best person, if you want to know the most upcoming workshop, whether it's a whatever education workshop we're doing, whether it's a Zoom, which I don't like. I love to see people's beautiful smiling faces.
Of course.
Or you can actually come to our workshops, live workshops. You want to ask for Bonnie. Bonnie is helping me out. She handles all the client relationships, our meetings, whether it's a one-on-one or in a group session. I think people love to come out, sit down, understand whether it's a wine and cheese party we have at our office we used to have before pre-COVID, or maybe we just have it at the library. You can check our website out for the events. And if they're not on there up on the events, you just simply get in touch with Bonnie at our office.
Easily accessible. And Bonnie, a great resource for you and a great person there to lead you in the right direction if you need the extra assistance as you kind of start navigating there. We're talking about educating people and answering questions, but another thing that's important, Scott, and you mentioned, is getting that maybe second or third opinion also. So maybe you have a current advisor, somebody that you're working with, but just getting some different eyes and ears on a situation can be helpful.
It would. I think one thing is, you don't know what you don't know, which in my book I talked about in The Three Blind Mice, and I'd love to get that in anybody's hands. They pop by their office. But I think what I found is, I guarantee if you had a stomach ache, which a client of ours did have, and they kept putting it off, and the doctor said, take this medication. 6 months later, they've got cancer throughout their entire body because they didn't get a second opinion. But it was the same problem. Well, I'm not saying that I want anybody to have cancer. That's how both my parents passed away. But financial cancer can be as disastrous as ever when you can't afford things and you have to lifestyle changes. I think this is why it's critical. You get a second, maybe a third opinion. This is why I think anybody that comes into a financial advisor's office and does business for the first time right off the bat, or goes to the bank and does business, take the money. I think, I call it down in Southern language, double dumb. It'd be like Colonel Sanders babysitting your pet chicken because frankly, you need to understand everything that's going on. And if they take more time focusing on getting your money, not focusing on the full person, on holistically, not simplistically, you're in trouble. So you definitely need a second or third opinion. I can tell you that's critical, whether it's financial or health or anything. I think it's really important.
To get answers to your questions, 609-488-4646. More Financial Insanity with Scott McLean coming up.
It's nice when you get everything on your list in one place, isn't it? Scott McLean from McLean Advisor Group agrees. That's why he offers comprehensive retirement planning all under one roof. You shouldn't have to go one place for tax planning, another for estate planning, and another for retirement income planning. That's why McLean Advisory Group was started. Scott wanted to build a company that could help families with all aspects of their retirement planning. McLean Advisory Group is more than just convenient. They're knowledgeable and experienced. And for answers for your questions, you can set up a meeting with Scott and his team to talk about your retirement. Call 609-488-4646. That's 609-488-4646. Use the same number to reach the team online. 609-488-4646.com. Investment advisory services are offered through Bellpoint Asset Management, LLC. Firm offers insurance services but does not provide tax or legal advice. News, tips, and financial tricks, all right here.
It's the kind of dazzle we need around here.
This is Financial Insanity with Scott McLean, powered by McLean Advisory Group.
2 out of 3 men underestimate life expectancy of the average 65-year-old man. Half of women underestimate the life expectancy of the average 65-year-old woman. Might not seem like a huge deal if you can't get a trivia question right on life expectancy, but can mean a big problem when you start to factor in the dollars, Scott.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking about life expectancy before COVID was 78 years, 78, 70, 79 years old, and current expectancy, I think it was 2021, was 72, almost 73. And so if you go back a time, this Adam and Eve deal, I think the curse was women are going to outlive men usually. I don't know if that's part of the Bible or not, but I do know is life expectancy. We're living a little bit longer than we used to. And when you live a little bit longer, you want to make sure you don't run out of money before you run out of life. And that's a big, big concern.
Scott, what's really the impact here? We underestimate our lifespan. Why can that be such a big deal?
In my family versus other families, I like to find out how, which isn't a real science, but in my family, the grandma died at 84 and 86. My mom and dad passed away at 74 and 75. But of course, in those generations, they smoke a lot and they drank a lot. So I tried to stay away from that. I love life. Of course, we don't know how long we're going to live. When you tier that up with your investments, they call it the rule of 4. How long will your money last? You figure $100,000 at 4%, $4,000 a year. You look at numbers and pension options. I like to tie that in to life expectancy. Example, a husband and wife, they both get Social Security. But what if one passes away? Well, they get the higher of the two, but there's a big piece that just got lost in their budget. Life expectancy. Does that mean you got to move in with your kids? Or maybe your kids move in with you? Life expectancy. So this needs to be put in the calculations of financial planning, especially when you're choosing your pension options. I don't know if that's where you want me to go, Alex, but I'm just thinking about life expectancy. We're living a lot longer than we used to. They got all sorts of medicines out there, new stuff to keep us around. They give us the $6 million man. Many of you are $6 million men, $6 million women with the new knees, new shoulders, new hearts, new parts. I guess that world came alive. But the longer we live, the more we're going to burn down our cash, which is why in the financial world, Alex, thinking about life expectancy, living on the I versus the G. The I, income producing assets that will give you a nice something you can bank on the first of the month. There's a check shows up in your mailbox or perhaps now automatically in your checking account. But the G, the growth equals shrinkage. Can we depend on that? And so I think life expectancy has a lot to do about your financial planning in light of my family. They died young, but what if I live to 100? Did I plan that? And so I think that's really, really critical. Matter of fact, I remember taking a test on the on FINRA and of course the SEC when you get your testing, and they say, what's the life expectancy? How should you plan? Now they're saying about 100 and 105. So even though none of my family lived that long, that could be really, really an amazing number. Life expectancy. What happens if your spouse passes? What does your numbers look like? Did they keep the pension, not the pension? We're living a lot longer these days, and one mistake could really affect your lifestyle.
Scott McLean, McLean Tax Advisory, 609-488-4646. If you have questions, Scott can try to answer those. And we talked a lot about inflation last segment. Retirement could last 20, 30 years. What's going to happen with inflation over that time?
Look at Venezuela. Venezuela got destroyed. If you go about inflation, it not only reduces the nest egg very rapidly, it also eats away at your current savings very rapidly. And I think what people don't understand, they do understand that, I think people now, but the younger generation, and I say my age is 60 plus, but you take a kid today that's 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, they don't understand that. They will later on in life. Great teaching tool. We spoke about one of our segments we spoke about in our radio shows is it's a great teaching tool for the kids right now, even though maybe you're fighting through it. And you think about the value of $1. Look at the price of these daggum cars. These used cars are more money than if you have a leased car. You know this, Alex, if you have a leased car with inflation, you're turning the car back in. They're like, they want your car. They're going to beg for you to take it back. Inflation has a way of really hitting it. And then, of course, our last thing we just spoke about, if we're living a lot longer, it could be really disastrous. I don't know if that answers your question or not, Alex, but I think people know that for life. And that's why people need to really pay attention, as we spoke about, to the bottom line of their investments and how can they preserve them, living on the income versus the growth. And that's why I think when people, they call us all the time, ask questions, or they come in, our clients, we need to pay attention to that more and more often. And it's not like putting your finger in the dike because another one's going to pop out, another hole is going to pop out. This is not a set it and forget it, pocket peel type of deal. This is important when we talk about this area.
And Scott, look at how much your parents paid for their first house versus how much it would be for you to get a new truck today.
Yeah.
I mean,
we talk about unexpected things that happen. A little earlier, when you asked me some questions, I'm thinking about the truck. Denise and Maggie are coming back, my wife and daughter, from Ocala, from competing in the World Equestrian Center. And they're coming back April to, I think it was 2022. They're coming back. And I think you saw some pictures where the wheel of a car from the other side of the 295 Beltway in Virginia flew off the car. They're going one way. My daughter and wife are heading north. Thank goodness my daughter was driving, slouching down in the truck, and the wheel hit the windshield and ripped off the entire roof of my 3500 Ram. Now, if you see pictures, that's unexpected. What if God took them home? Well, I know they're going to heaven. I have no doubt about that. 1 John 5:13 is real clear on that. I'm okay with that. The concern to me was the unexpected challenges. You know, that new truck, they gave me all my money back. I paid for the truck, but these new trucks, I'm going to wait. They're so expensive.
Yeah.
Frankly, the price of a truck today is the price of my first house in Ocean Gate, New Jersey, where I paid $42,500. It was a duplex. And I was just praying the tenant above us would pay their bill to help me pay my 13.5% mortgage, interest rate mortgage. So that consumer price index, keep your eye on that deal because that's a good measure of inflation.
Scott, how can we create an inflation-adjusted spending plan for our retirement?
That's a great question.
Isn't it?
If you're looking at that now, I think number one is the biggest cuss word I have ever heard when it comes to finance is the B word, the budget.
Yep.
Really, nobody, if you're making fat money, you're doing real well, you're rolling and doing, and you're just doing wonder, and then all of a sudden you retire, and now you're on a fixed budget. My goodness, I want the people I work with, I'd love them to do a budget 6 months before they retire and practice on that. Because if you're living, let's say, on $70,000 a year, and now you're on a fixed budget living on $40,000 a year, it's a lot of money, let alone having to turn the engine off from working, getting up at 5 a.m. and getting home at 5 p.m. If some of you guys that work like I do, well, that engine gets turned off. A lot of things are challenging in life. So the first thing, Alex, is the budget. The second thing is, how are you pulling money out of your investments to make the difference? Which is, do you take Social Security now? I get a lot of questions out of almost 570 different ways to take Social Security. Way number one versus the second way could be over $100,000 over a lifetime by choosing the wrong option. So paying attention to Social Security. And then on top of that, how do you look at this? Well, your pension options. Are you doing the pension optimization? People call us at our studios if they want. If you're having a pension, you're about to choose a pension. If you want to give a shout at our radio station about your pension options, 609-488-4646, because those pension options could really throw you off. And when you tier the pension options, when you're fighting inflation with Social Security, again, another challenge. So if you have that, I'd love to try to help anybody listening right now, 609-488-4646. We can guide you through that quagmire of just so many decisions. And then when you tear it up with your own personal IRAs or your 401ks, 403Bs, along with your savings. Again, it goes back to the cuss word. What was that cuss word?
Budget. Yep.
The budget. So
nobody wants to hear
so
that.
I think, Alex, I don't mean to be so simplistic. It goes back to keeping things simple. But at this time, pay attention to the bottom line. Pay attention to the units of shares of investments you have. Pay attention to the cost of living, which you're doing that. And it's going up so rapidly as it did in other countries. And people never thought it would. This is why it's so practical and very important to talk about it, at least on a yearly basis with your advisor. If you've got an advisor out there, hopefully he or she's bringing this up to you and not waiting for you to bring it up to them. But, bring it up anywhere. They need to ask those questions. That's important.
Well, Scott, and you don't want to have those three blind mice. You're somebody. Well, not to be funny necessarily. I do realize dropping that in there, but that
Right.
heck, you're somebody who knows these different areas, and you can speak to these different concerns. And so it's not just inflation. There's other things that people got to be concerned about or considering as they're looking into retirement. And I think that you have a good idea of what those different things are and how you can kind of guide someone through those different steps.
Yeah, I actually put in our if you've got our book, if you'd like to make sure you get a hold of it, I'd love to help you with that. I talk about inflation on chapter number 3. We spoke about that a while back, and that's page. If you got the book with you might want to pull it out. If you've been here, I know a lot of people have been here. We were the number 7 top Amazon hit in when COVID came out. I couldn't do my tour, but then we spoke about in trap number 5, which is really, really important. Is of course I call the 3 blind mice misses by miles. These are mistakes when people plan for their retirement and they really don't look over maybe history, how history can repeat itself more often than not. Could this, the time we're in right now, be the 3rd drop? Usually in the market, over 200 years of market history, there's 3 or more drops in a cycle. The 3rd's the worst. We haven't had the 3rd, and I surely don't want the 3rd. But when we look at the cycles of time, I put on page 97. If you got the book, definitely get a hold. By the way, I don't know if I'm allowed to do this, but if they want that, we can email them a copy of these chapters, Alex, if they want. No cost, no obligation. I'll be happy to do that. Actually, I just said Bonnie would be happy to do that. I'll just tell her what to do. But I think these are great historical lessons you can learn on inflation, the mice traps, and the hidden costs that can really rob you blind. I call it mouse trap number 6, the hidden costs that could rob you blind. I think that's really important. So if anybody would like to get a hold of that, I'd definitely make it available. 609-488-4646. No cost, no obligation. I'm not trying to sell anything. I want you to, as I said in every one of our workshops, I want you to be informed. And then being informed is one thing, but when you're informed, you need to do one more thing. That's called take action. But if you don't take action, it's almost like a deer in the headlights, and then you're going to end up in a wreck.
Final segment with Scott McLean coming up. That number again, 609-488-4646. If you have questions for Scott, you can also visit his website, 609-488-4646.com.
It's nice when you get everything on your list in one place, isn't it? Scott McLean from McLean Advisor Group agrees. That's why he offers comprehensive retirement planning all under one roof. You shouldn't have to go one place for tax planning, another for estate planning, and another for retirement income planning. That's why McLean Advisory Group was started. Scott wanted to build a company that could help families with all aspects of their retirement planning. McLean Advisory Group is more than just convenient. They're knowledgeable and experienced. And for answers for your questions, you can set up a meeting with Scott and his team to talk about your retirement. Call 609-488-4646. That's 609-488-4646. Use the same number to reach the team online. 609-488-4646.com. Investment advisory services are offered through Bellpoint Asset Management, LLC. Firm offers insurance services but does not provide tax or legal advice. Financial wisdom grown locally here on the Jersey Shore.
You think I'm an idiot?
This is Financial Insanity with Scott McLean, brought to you by McLean Advisory Group.
There are some words of wisdom that have stood the test of time, and now we'll share some timeless advice for you to keep in mind for your retirement. Scott, I'm going to give you a quote, and I want you to talk about what that has to do with retirement planning. First quote is from Ben Franklin.
Old Ben.
Old Ben. A penny saved is a penny earned. What do you think about that one as far as retirement's concerned?
I think everybody knows that one, but I think as I tell my family, I'll do today when we're younger. I tell this to all young people, do today what others won't do so you'll have what others won't have later in life. I think that's important. A penny saved is penny earned because it's hard to save money. You're raising kids, you're crying, and maybe at nights for those self-employed people listening to the show right now, you're seeing the thing go up in price and the cost expensive, and you still got to save for that retirement. If you're heading into retirement, you still got to put money away, and a penny saved is a penny earned. That's right, because you're paying the price now so you don't have to pay the price later. I think it's so important to save money, to put it away, and put it away in the right place. That's important.
Let's go ahead and keep it with Ben Franklin. He was a pretty smart guy, by the way. So he had another quote here, and tell me what this means to you, Scott. Wealth is not his that has it, but his that enjoys it.
Wow, that's a big statement. And wealth is not his that has it. Well, you know what? Nothing's ours as far as I'm concerned. We've been blessed from above. And when we're blessed from above, the question is, what are we doing with this wealth we've been given? Or maybe little money. Some people listening right now, Scott, I don't have a lot of wealth. Well, enjoy your life. Enjoyment is different for everybody. Enjoyment comes from the heart. And of course, if you have more money, you could, of course, enjoy it with others. But it's not about the money. It's about the time you spend. It's about keeping healthy. And then if you have more money, you can do a lot more stuff. So wealth is really our money. We're blessed from above. And again, what does it mean to me? It's enjoying those around us. In my case, I love working. This is my enjoyment. I love the passion. I love the animals at our farm. But I guess the question is, what am I enjoying the time I have, no matter what I have? Am I being blessed with what I have? We have so much in America compared to overseas. And I can tell you one thing, we need to be thankful every day with what we have.
Yeah, that's very well said, Scott. And I don't think we could do some memorable quotes without at least having one from Mr. Twain. He wrote a lot, and I know that you've written a book as well. You've mentioned it a few times, Scott, Three Blind Mice. And, we could spend a whole show going on the book, but just conceptually, can you kind of just explain the title there, what you mean, and why, given that information, why you've designed your office like you have?
Well, now being in the business for a few weeks now, since 1983, being licensed, and now here it is a couple of years later, you kind of learn a few things. You see, in the early years of my practice, I thought I knew a lot. As my dad would say, the older I get, the smarter my dad becomes. And I can tell you, I can answer that one for sure. The reason I put that together is because when I meet so many people on a daily basis and work with my clients, what I find is, as an advisor, as a fiduciary in this industry, for being licensed for so many years, your definition of conservative is different than John Doe or Susie Q. Your definition of safety is different than, John Doe or Susie Q. So when I think about the Three Blind Mice, almost inevitably, when I ask this very basic question, when the advisor looked at the will, power of attorney, living will, the financial advisor, and when he or she looked at your tax returns on a yearly basis, what did they say? Alex, inevitably, I get this answer. Well, they really never looked at it. Well, they never even spoke about my taxes. Yet finances hit all those areas. Wouldn't you agree? Alex,
Yeah.
when you go get a paycheck, you're getting hit by what? Taxes.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, your wife is asking, where's the money?
Of course.
Well, the tax man got it, right? So the three blind mice is they in and of themselves could do a wonderful job. This morning, I had a phone call and the husband was telling me about his son, a beautiful gentleman, 44 years old. And he said, Scotty, you know what? I fixed my will. I said, you did? He goes, yes. You remember when you kind of yelled at me? I said, I don't yell at anybody. He said, no, you kind of did. I could tell by your eyes and by your body posture because, Alex, his son in the will and in his investment beneficiaries, his son was the beneficiary. Now, on the surface of this show right now, Alex, you probably don't see a problem. But what I knew is his son had Down syndrome. His son was going to inherit the money. And I encouraged him, please don't let your son inherit the money. Let's open a trust to preserve the assets you and your sweetie built your entire life. And if you pass away, it's going to go to your son. That's fine. But then what's going to happen? Well, we have a different problem. We have him getting off of all the government subsidy that his son well deserved. You got a lot of people getting stuff out there they don't deserve. I'll make that real clear. But his son deserved it. Didn't deserve Down syndrome. His son deserves the money. But why not put it into a trust so it doesn't get evaporated away by the government? And so when I spoke to him, I was so happy that when I spoke to John, I said, John, I'm so glad that you and Alice did that. I'm so glad you took it. Well, you told us to, Scott. I said, well, I didn't really tell you, but I highly encouraged you to. He goes, no, you told us. Now, I'm not a lawyer, Alex. As you know, I have lawyers in our staff. And we have tax people on our, with the moment's throw, I can ask questions. If I don't have to be the smartest person or the brightest bulb, I just know who to call. So when it comes to the three blind mice, what I find in my industry, people are not asking really intimate questions, such as, in this case, John's child. And what happens if John passes away, his wife, Alice, well, she doesn't know really much about taxes and investments, but she leans on someone who does. And so I'm so thankful they've been clients for so many years because they didn't have that high touch. Now, that doesn't mean I have to be brilliant on those areas. Heck, I'll call their accountant. I'll call their lawyer. I don't care who they use, but I think that's important to understand. Me as a fiduciary, financial advisor, to look at the whole picture, not just what can I get, but how can I help? And that's where I believe it starts with that first meeting, getting to know the client from day one, understanding what their concerns are, their worries are. And I guarantee when John said to me, Scott, I feel so much better. I said, you got a load off your shoulders, don't you, Johnny? He said, I can't believe it. It just really opened up my eyes how important those documents. I think we did one show, Alex, we talked about the financial drawer, the clutter in the financial drawer, the junk drawer. Well, this junk got cleared out. They have now a game plan, which I encourage, which is why I wrote the book, The Three Blind Mice, how the financial planning process leads your money to a mousetrap. And this is where we want to try to clean up as financial industry, and which is what made me write the book many years ago. And we finally went to publish with Simon Schuster. So it was really a very good thing off my mind. I want people to get their hands on it. So I think that's what's so important.
Absolutely. And Scott, we got about a minute left in today's program. Please take us home, letting people know how they can contact you.
Well, I'd love to. If anybody has any questions, write them down. I think what's important is you write them down at 609-488-4646. You can call after you write them down. Why? Because it's your question, not mine. It's your concern, not mine. The moment you share it with me, it becomes my concern, and I'll do the best I can. And if I can't answer questions, 609-488-4646. I will tell you, I'll do my best to find out where you can get those questions answered, or if I have to seek out the attorney or the accountant, I will seek those out to get a question that you may have on your mind, because I can tell you it's about your finances and about where it goes, but more importantly, how you feel you want it to be delivered to your families upon the day the Lord calls you home. That's important to me.
This presentation may contain information which has undergone regulatory or other significant change since its original recording. The information on this program is educational in nature and is not intended to be a recommendation for any specific investment product, strategy, plan, tax, or legal advice. Information presented is believed to be factual and up to date, but we do not guarantee its accuracy. Discussions and answers to questions do not involve the rendering of personalized investment advice and is limited to the dissemination of general information and may not be suitable for members of the listening audience. Communications such as this are not impartial and are provided in connection with advertising and marketing for McLean Advisory Group. Prior to making any investment or financial decisions, an investor should always seek advice from a financial, insurance, legal, or tax professional. McLean Advisory Group and or Scott McLean offer investment advisory and financial planning services through Bell Point Asset Management, LLC.
This radio show is a paid placement.